Welcome back to the channel. Today we're working on our 2019 Sierra Denali. Now, I thought this was all done. The pizza girls had no trouble with this thing in the last 3,000 miles. But I borrowed it the other day, and there's some stuff I need to take care of before I can put it up for sale. So let's get all that done. Definitely gonna need to wash it up, and then we'll get it listed so that everybody that has no idea what this vehicle is worth can start complaining about how much I'm asking. Let's get started. Now, you didn't think I was actually going to cavity wax the entire truck and forget about the rear doors. Nah, let's get those done now. First, we'll pull the cover off behind the handle. We'll pull the other cover off behind the grab handle. So one screw in the bottom of the door panel, two in the grab handle, and one behind the door handle. I'll just tear this door panel off. We're just going to take the door panel off with the window sweep. We'll pull all those clips out of there later because they don't like to come out of the door panel. Disconnect the door handle, and we'll unplug the window switch. That switch does come out, but I like to pop it out from the inside so you don't get any marks from the tool in there because it does stay in there pretty well. We'll pull the bracket off for the grab handle, so we can pull the water barrier down. And we'll pull the door speaker out, so we have some access in there. Get as much as we can through the door speaker hole. Tried pulling the water barrier down, but it's pretty cold, so it didn't want to release from the door. It started to tear, so I just decided to stop and do what I could from there. That little tear won't hurt anything. So we'll just use one of the holes in the back of the door to get our nozzle in there. We can see all the way to the back through the speaker hole, so we'll just do it that way. This is the winter version of cavity waxing, I guess. Midsummer, you can pull the water barrier down, no problem. Stick it right back up there. Things get brittle in the cold. Why do I live here again? Stick our water barrier back up there, put our speaker back in, put our grab handle bracket back on. These water barriers are a little more friendly when it's warmer out. Tighten it down with our electric torque wrench. Torque values are critical on those. Pull our window sweep out of there. Then we'll pull off all the clips. Pull our clips back on the door. And slide our window sweep in there. And put our door panel back up. We'll run our wires in there. We did pop that switch out of there. There's one little Christmas tree that holds it on to the door panel, so we'll push that in there. And we'll install our handle cable. Put the door lock through the door panel. And start clipping in our door panel with our door panel installation tool. Our door panel installation tool must have been low on power. Didn't want to clip this last clip in there. We got it. I'll put our screws back in behind the handle, two in the grab handle, one in the bottom. Then we'll plug in our window switches, snap the whole thing down in there, put our covers back on, make sure our door lock works, and over to the other side. Pull the covers out, pull the screws out, tear the door panel off. Gets easier the second time. Pull the speaker out. Nope, don't
candy over here either.
No, we learned our lesson. We're not even going to pull that grab handle bracket out. We're just going to get everything from the speaker hole. That way we don't have any torn water barriers on this side. Get a good coating of wax in there. Put our speaker back up. Screw it in. Pull our window sweep off. Pop all of our clips off. And snap them back into the door. Reinstall our window sweep. This window switch didn't want to come out, so I just fought with it and plugged it back in the hard way. Sometimes you have to know when to call it quits. I didn't want to break the clips trying to push it out of the door panel, so it's easier to fight with it, plugging it back in. Plug in our door handle. Put the lock back through the door panel. And we'll smash the door panel back onto the door. Throw our screws back in it. Put our covers on. And our truck is completely waxed, ready for the salty winters. I did drop one hood insulation clip down in the Narnia. Never found it. Scott's GM Truck Emporium had one in stock, so we replaced that. We're going to pull our tires off. We have a little suspension work to do. Pop the little clips off for the wiring harness. Holds it to the top of the shock. Our shocks are a little bouncy. We already had that one new one on the driver's side from when we changed the entire suspension. So we're going to change the other front one. Ratcheting wrenches make this job a lot easier, because I didn't feel like pulling the wheel liner out to get an electric ratchet in there, or lowering the truck down and grabbing a long extension and trying to get it from the top. We'll just get a little arm workout in. There's a nut and a bolt on the bottom. Spin that off of there. Pull the bolt out. And the pile. And there was our original. And it's supposed to come back out. It's also supposed to be much harder to push in. So I think it was bad. Probably when it landed, blew the shock out. So we'll start our studs at the top. Put the nuts on there just to hold it in place. And we'll put the bolt in the bottom. Tighten it up. Click. And now we'll tighten our nuts up at the top. Make sure you use the shock tightening face, or this is never going to work. So now we'll turn it over so we can use the torque side of the wrench. Click. 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 Always good to double check. Snap our wiring harness back on so it doesn't end up melting on the exhaust manifold. And our shock is still compressed. I think it's bad. Now we'll put some grease in the upper ball joints while we have the tire off. A little easier to get to it now. Throw our tire back up. And now we'll change the rears. There's a nut and a bolt at the bottom. Spin that off of there. Here, the stand, we're going to lift the rear end up a little bit. Take some tension off that shock. And the bolt will come right out. I'll take the bolt out of the top. The top bolts into the frame, so there's no nut on the backside. Break it loose and spin it out of there. In the pile. And we have our brand new one. Start our bolt in the top. And we'll start our bolt in the bottom. Tighten it up. And we'll tighten up the one at the top. I have to go get our torque wrench. Click. Now we'll take our stand down, bring it over to the other side. And here's our old shock and our other new one. That one's still compressed as well. We'll check back on it later. So to the other side, same way. Unbolt the bottom of the shock. Lift the rear end up a little bit. Or let it down. And then lift it back up. Pick a direction, buddy. There we go. Now we can unbolt the top. Yes, in case you're wondering, the shocks do go in two different directions. The right side goes towards the front, the left side goes towards the back. Pretty common on most vehicles. Put our bolt back on the top of our shock. And we'll put the bolt back in the bottom. Apparently this shock is a little shorter. I had to lift the rear end up a little bit. Tighten up the shock at the top. Grab the torque wrench. Click. Now you can tighten up the bottom. Click. Now we'll take our stand out. This thing should ride much better now. Well, that shock wasn't quite as bad as the other one. Still bad though. So now on to our oil change. Pull our oil filter off. Engineers were pretty nice on this one. It's pretty easy to do. Of course, they could have put the oil filter back about 3 inches and we wouldn't have to get oil all over the frame and differential and everything else, but hey, at least you can see it, right? Guess I shouldn't complain. Pull the drain plug out. Would have been nice to put that back about 1/2 inch so it didn't hit the frame, but again, at least we can see it, so. We'll let that drain. We'll put our filter back up there. Now we have a good coat of oil all over our frame and differential. Tighten it up. Use our torque rag. And I'm going to leave that dirt on there just to annoy the clean freaks. Put the oil plug back in. We'll clean that up.
got to give the clean freak something. Tighten it down. We'll run over and grab the 1-inch impact and make sure it's on there. Then we'll weld it in just so that there's no leaks, and hope that Jiffy Lube gets to change the oil next time. I have to fill it up. It's nice to get the 2.5 gallon jugs of oil because that's almost what it takes, but it's really hard to get it in there because the engineer that usually likes to hide the oil filter and drain plugs in obscure locations was allowed to design the oil fill location on this truck. So it's way down there behind everything else. So getting that other jug in there to fill it up is not exactly convenient. So I just transfer it into the can, and I have a spout and a funnel. So I make less of a mess this way. I still make a mess, don't get me wrong, but a good majority of the oil ends up in the truck. So now we'll dump the rest of our jug in our oil can, and we'll pour the rest of it in. And you can see it's an awesome location. Way down there. Put our oil cap back on. And now we'll reset the oil change light. Pretty easy. Just go to the oil life monitor, hold the check mark until it says 100%. Start it up, build up some oil pressure, and then we'll check it, make sure it's full. This is how easy all oil change lights should be to reset. Some of them are harder to reset than hacking into the Department of Defense. And now we're going to grease the rest of the truck, because if this thing is serviced at any dealership or Jiffy Lube, it'll never be done again. We'll put some grease in it while we can. Both upper and lower ball joints, tie rod ends, idler arm, and pitman arm. That's all there is on these.
So that's it. All that's left to do is take it for a ride and make sure that it rides much better than it used to, and wash it up and get it up for sale. So let's take it for a ride now. That way, once it's washed up, it'll be ready to go and nice and clean. We don't want to drive it after we wash it. It's back!
Typical Ford. Can't stay out of the shop. Actually, this is the first time I've seen this one since I sold it. So it's the next day. We're going to take this thing for a ride, and we're going to go through the ultimate test. These railroad tracks coming up. It's where I really noticed the shocks were bad, as it just used to bounce and bounce after you hit those tracks. So, now it rides more like a truck. Nice and firm. So now that our suspension's all taken care of and the truck's riding good, let's put it to work. We got some piles to move and see how this thing handles carrying some weight. So, all those brake jobs that I do, I've been collecting the rotors. We're going to get rid of those first. And they're pretty heavy, but they don't take up a lot of room, so it's really not worth loading up my dump trailer. So I'll just throw them in the back of the truck. That's a little bit of a workout, loading all these rotors. But once upon a time, I used to have to load all my scrap and unload it all. That's why I got a dump trailer, because I'm old. And if you're wondering, it's about 30 degrees outside. And I work in a t-shirt, because it gets too hot wearing a jacket. I always wanted a squatted truck. No. It's the only way to do it right. Take a guess at how much weight you think is there. Now that we've dumped off our brake rotors, I decided to clean up my pile of wiring harnesses. These are just the harnesses that are left over from front ends, quarters, whatever, that I had to remove to do work or cut them off. So they pay a little bit more. They pay a lot more if I stripped them all down, but I don't have time for that. So you're wondering what the piles are worth? There you go. There was almost a full ton of brake rotors. Now it's time to take our trailer in. It's loaded up with all kinds of stuff, most of which happens to be that 2006 Chevy pickup that I parted out. The other half of the frame that I didn't sell, the front half that was bent, is in there, along with the rest of the cab that I cut up, and who knows how many other parts from how many other jobs I have in there. It's full. I don't have the receipt on that one, but I want to say there was 6,000 pounds in there. So now let's take you on a virtual test drive. See how it drives? It's pretty quiet. Camera's a little bouncy. I didn't bring my tripod mount, so it's just clamped to the headrest. So I do get a lot of the haters that say, you know, I'm just going to sell this to some unsuspecting buyer. Would I ever drive it myself? Well, clearly I will drive it myself. Not only will I drive it myself, I will connect my other builds to it and haul both of them around. Always have, always will. I'm not afraid of my work. So far, I put almost 4,000 miles in this truck. I've had no trouble with it. I don't know how long I have to drive it before I can say that the haters are wrong and rebuilt cars are the same. But those crybabies will never be happy, so like I said, 4,000 miles, no trouble. I'm gonna call it good. And here's our railroad tracks one last time. Yep, still rides much better. Maybe I should hit them going a little faster and we can start this build all over again. So we handed it over to the detailing gnome and he cleaned it all up for us. And as you can see, it didn't last very long. It started raining almost as soon as he was done. And came up here to shoot the video, and a bunch of people had the nerve to park in my video location. So I'm over here in the corner. It's a good looking truck. I actually do like it better than my white trucks, although the white trucks stay cleaner much longer. It is nice having two trucks. My white truck is always ready to go on road trips. The bed is always full of stuff that I might need while I'm out driving. This bed is always empty, so it makes it nice and easy to throw stuff in the back and haul stuff around without having to unload my truck every time. Although this is a pretty expensive truck just to be convenient. So it's in need of a new owner, because I'm poor and can't afford 2 Sierra Denalis. So as useful as this truck has been for me, and as much as the pizza girl likes it, it's time for it to go. Now, it hasn't seen snow yet because we're having some kind of record for latest snowfall in Chicago. So if you want to be the one to save it and bring it down south, I'm sure it would appreciate it. I'd appreciate it if somebody brought me down south. I don't like it up here. Anyway, it should be available on the website by the time you're seeing this, unless you skipped ahead in the video, in which case you're going to have to wait. And while you're waiting, you might as well just go watch the rest of the video. By the time you're done, it should be listed. Website's down there. If you don't want to type it in, links in the description. So I know we've already played everyone's favorite game on this build, but I'll give you a freebie. So let's find out, once again, what's in my console. Looks like we have an answer to why our 2018 Ford Explorer is back. So let's check out that video. So I thought I'd give you guys a build update. Where are they now? Well, this is the 2018 Ford Explorer that I did a couple years back. Link's up there if you didn't see it. Well, it hit a deer. I think it had like 9,000 miles on it when I rebuilt it. It now has 46,000 miles on it. And it was out in Washington, I believe, and nailed a deer. So it's gonna need a headlight,
bumper. The radiator support's crushed. Fender's got some damage on it. It's missing a wheel opening molding, a little damage on the wheel. The airbags, or at least the driver's airbag and the driver's seatbelt deployed. So the total cost for this repair is so far going to be about $12,000. Yeah.
A really expensive headlight. Although I'm digging the packing tape and zip ties. My hood prop repair is still hanging in there. Of course, doesn't matter anymore since we're going to be getting a new radiator support. That one's got some cracks in it. Condenser. There's supposed to be some shutters in there that are no longer there. And I pushed the radiator out. I would imagine the top of the radiator is probably broken. So when we get it apart, we might even find some more stuff. It might be more than 12 grand. So we'll need our airbag and our seatbelt. Because this is going through insurance, we can't have it rebuilt. We'll have to put a new one in there. Well, that looks like it. We already cleaned it out. There wasn't much left in here. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.